right, welcome everybody to another edition of the Dad at Arms channel. I'm your host, Colt, the Dad at Arms. This is another kind of exclusive interview for He-Man.org. And with me today, I have James Unsworth. And James, why don't you go ahead
Hey,
and introduce yourself? Tell us why you're here.
so I'm James Unsworth. I am a actor, a stunt performer, and motion capture performer. And specifically for this, and the reason we're here today, is I provided the motion capture and the performance capture for Beastman in Masters of the Universe, due out this week.
Very cool. Very cool. So previously, we talked with stunt performer Clayton Grover, who also did work on the Masters of the Universe movie, and he did some work with Beastman as well.
Yeah,
So can you kind of,
yeah.
for those of us like myself who aren't in the film industry and all that, can you kind of explain to us kind of
Yeah, of course.
how that all kind of works together?
Yeah, of course. I mean, so Clayton and I, we have very different jobs that come in at very different times of production. So Clayton, his role is, as well as being part of the stunt team, and props to the stunt team on this film. Stunt performers deserve all the credit in the world for the amazing things that they do. He was the beast man on set for the purposes of acting with the main cast, acting with the supporting artists, basically being referenced for camera, and just sort of being Beastman on set, so the crew and the cast of someone to interact with, and get an idea of what he's like physically. My role comes in much later in production, generally in post-production, where I'm hired directly by Industrial Light and Magic to come into their studio and work on the Beastman acting beats and figure out how he's going to move physically, actually, in terms of the film. The little moments, the face, the body, the tweaks, and then we basically then go through the movie, especially the bigger scenes of Beastman, and literally just shot for shot, we just redo it on the stage with me in the suit as the character, and just creating a performance, really, which is then handed over to the incredibly talented VFX and animators who create this amazing character, which is what everyone will see on the screen.
That's awesome. That's just so incredible. And for someone who doesn't really, I don't know anything about making movies. And so just hearing all these kind of behind the scenes stories about how it all works together, it really is, it's like making magic. You know what I mean? Like so much that goes into
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, 100%. And it's so funny. I always describe it to my mates as it's almost like a Frankenstein's monster in the best possible way, because you have all these amazingly talented people who are experts in their particular field, all contributing a piece of the puzzle, which ends up with an amazing VFX character like Beastman. And it's just a great gig and a great thing to be a part of, to be honest.
That's so cool. Before we get too far into like specifics of everything you kind of did, I want to ask, what is your previous relationship with this brand, with Masters of the Universe? Is it something that you grew up with and have an affection for? Is it something you came to later? Kind of what's your history on that?
My relationship with Masters is an interesting one. Well, I think it's interesting. So Masters has been like ever present in my entire life, to be honest. When I was a kid, my earliest memories in terms of like franchises that I liked was Thomas the Tank Engine and Masters of the Universe. And then as I got a little bit older, I sort of shifted into other franchises. Like I was big on Transformers, I was huge on Power Rangers, and I was really into professional wrestling. And Masters sort of took a back seat and sort of got forgotten for a large portion of my life. Like I know what it was, I'd see it around, but the memories that I had from it were lost. And then when I was about 22 or something, I was hanging out with a mate, and we were sort of just hungover, sat on his couch, and he was just like, "Oh, do you want to watch the Masters of the Universe?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, yeah, stick it on." And we put it on, and suddenly this flood of memory just hit me. And it was a bit like when, you know, you're a kid and your parents play you a song and then you hear it again as an adult and you know all the words randomly. And
Yeah.
I instantly remembered all these amazing characters, all this amazing lore and all this backstory. And yeah, and then since then, it's sort of been, you know, I love, I'll be scrolling through YouTube watching, you know, whatever takes my fancy that day. And a clip from Masters will pop up and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll watch that, you know. And yes, that's me really. I love anything with lore as well. You know, anything with like deep, rich storytelling is proper my bag.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so with that old cartoon, you kind of have a relationship with that. Did you follow like any of like the newer kind of incarnations? Like in the 2000s, we had the Mike Young production, Master of the Universe kind
Mm,
of reboot. Um, and
yeah.
then, obviously in the
So,
90s, we had
so
He-Man
the
in space.
last one, yeah. Well, every franchise needs to go to space. You
Yeah.
know? So the last one that I watched, apart from the, because I'd go back to the original because that's what I remembered, and then I dipped my toe into the new Kevin Smith one
Hmm.
that they did on Netflix, just because it popped up and it was big and it was bright, and I watched a bit, but it was very different to what I remember. You know, so I was just a bit like, oh, I think I prefer my old school. You know, I like my Skeletor throwing insults out at everyone. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just being just the amazing camp villain that he is. You know.
Awesome. When preparing for a role like Beastman, how much work do you do? Like you mentioned, being a lore hound earlier. Did you dive
Mm.
into the lore of the character at all to kind of prepare for anything?
A little bit. I mean, it's weird when you get your castings and your call sheets through from Industrial Light and Magic. Everything's still codenamed. Um, so when I got the thing through from Masters, I can't remember what the code name was, but I remember I recognized it because I generally just like to keep up on what the code names for films are. And so I was
Yeah.
like, this is Masters. And then you have the shot list of everything that we're going to be shooting, like on the days and the weeks that we're there. And I'm like, oh, okay. It says Beastman. So, okay, Beastman, Master of Universe, you put two and two together. And then you sort of go, okay,
Hmm.
this is who I'm playing. At that point, I then try to do as much research as I can from the character, not do too much because I don't want to be overly influenced by one particular version of him. And
Right.
yeah, then I just start thinking of different ways in which, you know, I could potentially portray it. Generally, also whatever is in my head, like whatever computer game I'm playing or whatever series I'm playing at a time ends up having a little piece in there, you know, as well. And then yeah, we go into the studio and we see what works really.
That's awesome. Um, so before we, kind of before talking about Beastman specifically, how long have you been in this line of work in the industry for motion capture and stuff like that? And kind of what are some of the projects that you've worked on over the years?
Yeah, so motion capture, I've been in it about 10 years or so. Stunts, I've been in about 15 years, and acting, I've been in about 25 years. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's been a long sort of journey, and it's sort of been an evolution from one thing to the other, you know. So, like, you know, I started out as an actor, and when you become an actor and you, especially if you're doing it in London, which is what I was doing, and everyone says, you know, I'm a triple threat. I act, I sing, and I dance. And I was like, well, I don't sing, and I definitely don't dance. What can I be? So I was like, oh, I'll be the fight guy. You know, like me and my friends always used to film sword fights up north. We'd recreate Lord of the Rings. So I went to all the fight courses I could go to. I learned as much as I possibly could. I started training in professional wrestling, and then a natural ceiling came. I was like, oh, you're now this physical performer that is used to taking hits, is very good with weapons and fighting. You should go into stunts. So then you transfer into stunts, and then you do that for a bit, and you know, still to this day, still do it. Like I don't know Clayton personally, but I'm mates with half the other guys on the stunt team for Masters. You know, um, and then from there, it's sort of, you know, you realize this world of mocap exists, and with mocap, it's really a middle ground in between theatre for movies and stunts, because really when you get hired on a mocap gig, they need you to be able to be anyone, really. And you can be anyone, you know. You can be, you know, a flippy sort, you can be a big guy, you know, and it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, all they're taking is data. And yeah, I sort of went into there and I started working in the gaming world, and worked on a few games. Destiny 2 was a big one. I worked on Destiny 2, and that was a real blast for me, because I played Destiny.
Yeah.
But did some work for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands as well, which was a Borderlands spin-off, and that was really cool. I got to mocap a character played by Andy Samberg and another one played by Will Arnett, which was just, you know, as a comedy nerd as well, that was huge for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then I might start, yeah, it was great fun, really good. And then I started to make a relationship with Industrial Light and Magic, which was a real dream for me, because I'm a Star Wars kid. So being able to, you know, work in the House of Star Wars was just fantastic. And there's some stuff coming up that I can't speak about. That's decent, very, very, very decent. But we also do a lot of the stuff on the TV shows. So Silo is one that I've done like every season of Silo, including the 2 that aren't out yet. Witcher I did last season and the next season. And yeah, there's just loads, and there's a really, really good sort of crew of about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 of us in the UK who basically just do all the ILM stuff, and it's cool. A real great team to be part of.
Very cool. Did you ever get to work? Because I play a lot of video games as well, so obviously when you say, you know, The Witcher, that makes me happy. So you worked on the Netflix series.
Yeah, the Netflix. Yeah.
And then with Star Wars,
it's a dream to go to public work on the games.
Yeah, that would be cool. With Star Wars, did you get to do any work for any of the video games?
So Star Wars is still at the very tippity top of my bucket list. A lot of the Star Wars stuff they don't do in the UK, they do in America. I think we did Obi-Wan over here, maybe. I think.
Okay.
But I didn't manage to get a part of that. They did Starfighter over here, but there wasn't a huge demand for the motion capture on Starfighter. So I'm still waiting for that moment where I can go there and do Jedi stuff, you know.
Yes.
It's great. When you go into ILM, they have like most of these studios and any stunt performer will relate to this. They have like the armory where you have like the different weapons that you can use. They've got, you know, your swords, your axes, your guns, whatever. And they've got, obviously being Star Wars, you've got your lightsabers. So whenever we're on lunch break, I'll just grab some sabers and just have a play, you know, just hope that someone sees me and it's just like, oh, this little thing. Oh, yes.
Now, did you make the saber sound effects with your mouth as you're playing with it?
I make weird sound effects. Like I think because I grew up on pro wrestling, I make whenever I make noise, it always sounds a bit like Mick Foley, you know, because he was like my idol growing up. So it's not a zoom, it's like you know. And yeah, so I think people just think I'm losing my mind when I do
it. Oh, that's great. Okay, so let's jump in and talk all things Beastman and Masters of the Universe for this movie. Tell me what like a typical day for you would look like in doing the work for this.
Yeah, so a typical day is, you know, you turn up at the studio, you grab a coffee and a croissant, and then the head tech will normally come out, who's a good mate of mine, and he'll sort of speak us through what we're doing for the day, and he'll give us the shot list. And then generally from the shot list, I can sort of judge whether or not the day is going to be stunty or not, because I've got my own body protection that I wear if things are going to be stunty, because then I can just chuck myself against the hard floor, hard wall. I can do everything without worrying that I'm going to injure myself. And you know, with Beastman in particular, you're looking at it and you're like, it's a bit stunty, you know, like there's certain scenes, you know, where it's being shot by lasers and being smashed against things. So it's like, yeah, I'll armor up for this. And also the armor adds a little bit of bulk, which when you're playing these larger than life, like beastie, monstery characters, it really helps because it helps you in your mind and then your physicality, like get into it, if you know what I mean. And then we get in the space. We do something that's called a ROM, and that's basically just standing in the space and moving all your joints and etc. just so the cameras can detect you as a physical person, you know. And once you've gone through all that and the ROM's accepted, then there's a big screen that they'll just put you up on. And in a lot of mocap studios, this will be like a stick man, or you'll have like an idea of what your character looks like. But in most studios, it looks a bit like almost like an unpainted Warhammer figure, if you get that reference.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
At Industrial Light and Magic, that's not the case. It's fully animated. You know, you look up on the screen and it's Beastman, not as perfect as he is on the cinema screens, but near enough pretty good one-to-one, which then means that you then can get into space and you can start to move and you can start to get an idea of how this character is. You know, does he walk on his fists like an ape? There's ape tendencies to him, a bit silverbacky, but you know, he's not strictly an ape, he's a man. So okay, so shades of that, you know, like what else? You know, oh, he's got claws. Okay, so you know, it's going to be a bit, you know, violent in places. And then something I sort of found really worked for me was the dropping of the forehead and sort of looking up and sort of having this sort of motion going on. It was almost a bit like it reminded me a bit of like a thug outside a pub, you know, when someone's really spoiling for a fight, you know, points back and forth, and they do that, you know, like terrible fight technique, but it has that menace to it.
Right.
And then we just start going through the shot lists. There'll be some things that are just, you know, me running around, you know, some things that'll be me, you know, fighting, screaming, roaring, etc. Be it, you know, a police car, for example. We'll build a rig out of like a modular system of, you know, pipes and platforms, which you can then build to the size of a police car. And then you can climb up on it, jump on it, get down, you know, really feel it. And then you can launch yourself off it, you know. So you have the things to interact with. And this works with everything in mocap. You can make anything, you know. You can make, you know, a car, a bar, you know, like it doesn't matter because it's all just flat surfaces and pipes at the end of the day. And then say if you need something where, like, you know, you land on a police car and there's a bit of give, you can use pilot boxes that you use in the gym for like squat jumps, and you jump on that and it has a bit of crush to it. And then you can also then use those for, like, you know, if you're flipping a car or you're chucking something, you can chuck that across the voids, you know, missing the cameras, of course, you know, you can lift it up like, you know, checking under a car and doing that. And for anything that the character interacts with, we'll have something like that.
Okay. That's awesome.
And, yeah.
So it sounds like just kind of a big playground for you to have fun
it's great. Yeah, it's the best, you know, it's superb. And I absolutely love it, you know, and it's and depending on what the production needs, you can build whatever you want. You know, if you need to be falling off a skyscraper, they'll build a big platform with a big drop and crash mats at the bottom, so you can just move and do a bit of a plummet, you know, down onto the crash mats, you know. And so in terms of, like, you know, mocap and visual effects, there's really nothing that can't be done, you know. And then, you know, once you've gone through all the shot lists, then you get into more generic stuff where it's you get your, like, things called your idols, which is just like, how does Beastman or your character, how does he stand? If he's not doing anything, how is he, you know? And you know, it's you really need to focus on, you know, the little things, you know. It's I always see it like, it's mocap's a bit like you're acting to the first row in a theater. You know,
Yeah.
you don't need to be huge, but you need to be big enough that they see you.
Okay.
So a big thing to focus on in mocap is shoulders, because a lot of time, so I see a lot of actors go into mocap and they'll be really good actors and they'll deliver amazing performances. But if you look at the data, the body looks absolutely dead because they're all here in their face and they're feeling it and they're feeling the emotion, but the body looks weak. So then you really need to focus on, you know, your breathing and how is he sort of looking. And it's why you see, whenever you see a mocap performer in the suit, they're very sort of, there's always something happening, you know. And then we go from the idols into walk cycles, where how does he walk? How does he run? How does he go from walking to running? How does he go from walking to running on all fours? You know, and it's all these different things that then contribute to basically the data, which is then handed off to the animators, and they, as I said earlier, create this amazing character, which is then given to amazing voice performers like Gary, who give voice, and under the direction of Travis, then just complete the puzzle, you know?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Gary. So Gary Martin provides the voice for Beastman in this film. With doing the motion capture, is there any type of like crossover of you working directly with Gary to kind of get the facial movements down that he can then match with the voice,
No,
or is that a
generally,
different?
yeah, it's different. Generally, it's there's lots of different ways it can happen. You know, sometimes you get the voice first, and they'll play. And this is just in general in mocap. You'll get the voice first, and they'll play the voice like in the studio, and you basically learn to mime it. You know.
Okay.
And then sometimes, like we did on Masters, they just give me the script, and I have license to do what I want, basically. You know.
Okay.
It was, so for the scene they're showing at CinemaCon, you look up on the screen. So when you're going through the shots that you want to do, they basically just have a storyboard. They have like, you know, hand drawn, almost like a comic strip of this is the shot we want. We want Beastman turning around and roaring at the camera. We want him jumping off, you know, the police car. We want him landing on the police car, you know. And then there's another big scene that he has, which is it's with Skeletor. And for that, we had the video of Clayton's reference. So we could see what the shot is and the timing of what he does in the scene, which I won't spoil because I don't think anything can believe it yet. And then they give me an idea of script. They say something like, you know, there's one line I can say because it was in the last trailer. He says something like, oh, violent villainous Skeletor, you know. So they feed me that line and say, okay, do that, and then say something of like that. So I'm then, you know, oh, violent villainous Skeletor, emperor of evil, you know, and just start making stuff up basically. And then they'll sort of say to me, they'll feed me in the Skeletor lines, and we'll act through the scene. And then all that, as far as I understand, is then animated, handed off to Gary. And then Gary can see, you know, an idea of what happens. He does the voice, and then they animate the face.
Okay.
You know, at least that's my understanding of it. You know, again, a bit similar to how mine and Clayton's jobs come at a different part of production. Mine and Gary's part come in different parts of production.
Okay. So yeah, like, you know, like you mentioned earlier, it's all all pieces of a bigger puzzle.
Yeah, it's this huge collaborative like endeavor, which is, it's such an honor to be a part of, you know, really it is, you know, and it's something that I love doing as a gig. I love doing as a job, you know. It's something that makes me very, very proud. And it's everyone being at the top of their game and creating this character.
That's so cool. And, you know, I had the opportunity. I got to go to the premiere in Hollywood. They invited me to go to that, and I got to tell you, man, I'm a farmer that lives in Idaho, and so getting like my first trip to LA, I get to go see a He-Man movie on like the biggest stage there is at the Chinese theater, like overwhelming. You know what I mean? It's been been 2 weeks now, and still feels like so surreal that I actually got to do it.
Oh wow, so
Um, but Beastman looks incredible on screen. Like everything about this movie looks incredible. Um, and I just, Beastman is such an iconic character. Uh, it I don't know. It's almost emotional, like watching it realized
hmm.
to this level of I don't, it's hard to find words to, express how cool it is. Um,
Well, I hope my part that I contributed did justice to it, because it was, it's when I figured out I was playing this character, there were so many things that were sort of going through my head of, I don't want to make him just a big beast, because Beastman has so many sides to him.
mhm.
He's bestial, he's violent, but he's also hugely insecure. Comedic in some ways. And like feigning for approval. And
Yeah. Well,
and
he's a,
I
he's a henchman. He's like the classic cartoon henchman, under
yeah.
the rule of a larger than life villain, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Which is something that I really wanted to get across, especially in this chamber scene that I spoke of. I didn't want it to
Hmm.
be he instantly comes in with his tail between his legs. I wanted it to be that he comes in still. Oh yes, I'm awesome. Sorry, it didn't go to plan. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's cool. Well, my opinion of it is that he looks great, and as a lifelong fan of these characters and of this IP, I'm very happy, and I think that's kind of the general consensus among fans and people who have gotten to see the movie so far, that this is something special, and that it's in good hands. Um, so yeah, it's great, and I'm just so happy to be able to speak with people like you who have contributed to this and made this thing happen. Been a part of that.
Yeah, man.
So thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you very much. That literally means the world.
Good, good. Um, so did you get the opportunity to how I guess let me rephrase this. How closely did you get to work with other people on this production, like
um,
with like the actors that kind of have their, like the He-Man actor Tila,
yeah,
what was
not at
that kind of
all.
process like?
Not at all. I am a satellite.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
It literally is like the guys at ILM. They work on everything, and it's hilarious to me, because you go in there and you see the posters of all the things they've done. Or you must be like shooting it over lunch, as I never told them what they're working on. And you're like, you did that, how you do everything. And it's just day to day for them. Come in,
Yeah.
go to set, do some visual effects, come here, do some MOCAP, animate it, and it's crazy. But with me, is that I, especially on the MOCAP side, is I work on all these amazing projects, but you don't get the main actors into the MOCAP studio usually.
Right.
There are exceptions, like to my knowledge, Tom Holland goes in, or to do Spider-Man stuff,
Okay.
or used to. They'll tell me stories about Tom Holland. And then there's certain shows, like I think if they're making a computer game or something, like I think I was chatting to some guys at a different studio, Centroid, and they were talking about doing a Peaky Blinder game, and they had the cast from Peaky Blinders in. Um, but a lot of the time, it's almost just feels like an old school rock band, where you're just this one little crew of performers that then sometimes get hired all together, sometimes get hired one at a time, and you just get to work on incredible stuff, and then you go home and our ass talk about it till the film's released.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and like I've got so many things, in my six shooter just ready to pop off. They're just like, oh, I did that. Yeah, I did that as well. Oh, I'm that guy. I'm also all of those people. And it's a crazy one.
That's awesome. Do you have any stories or experiences that kind of stand out from working on this character?
Um, the one that was quite funny just for me, just because it was just almost like a sort of blooper for me, was the first. Actually, there's two that were quite good. There was one where it was, and I think it's the shot that's in the trailer. The first one where he lands on a police car, he sort of roars and then he throws himself off. Now I work in stunts. I'm used to working at height. I'm used to leaping and diving and doing all these dive rolls and that sort of stuff. But the way they wanted it done, where it was chuck forward and get arms back airtime when you're jumping off a 6-foot-ish platform. In your head, it's like, oh, this is easy. When you get up there and you go, oh, wait, that's actually quite high, and if I'm doing that, am I then going to have time to break my fall when I land,
Yeah.
So I think the first time I went there and just sort of fell forward and just nearly spiked my head on the sort of thing.
No.
And everyone was just sort of like, oh, you're all right. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Let's do that again, and then got up and, and flew. And I was like, oh, okay, I've got it now. It's all good. And then, then the other one was, we were doing one of the shots that was, I think it's like I've just been shot by a laser and had to like smash up against like a car or the side of the motorway or something like that. And being in mocap, like it's a joy that it's one of the perks of the job where we get to use crash mats with absolutely everything. When you're stunting on set, you don't get crash mats. You have the floor,
Oh, wow.
Sometimes there's, a bit of matting that you can rehearse on, but most of the time, as soon as the scene's rolling, that mat's taken away and it's just, eat the floor, mate,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
in mocap, you don't have to do that because none of that data's being picked up. So you get to use crash pads. And we tried this hit on the crash pad a few times and it just wasn't really working. There was too much give. You couldn't quite get that back snap. So I just sort of said, look, guys, just take the pads away. Just take them all. I've got my back pad already on under my suit. So I'm just like, look, just have the hard surface and let me react off that. And like when I'm speaking to a stunt performer or someone who works in stunts, I tell them that and they go, yeah, of course you do it that way. When you're speaking to a team of technicals who don't work in stunt, they work in visual effects, they're like, "Why? Are you sure? Like, oh no, we can't ask you to do that. It's oh no, you're going to hurt yourself." And I'm like guys, this is literally what I do for a living. This is my bread and butter. I'm a human crash test dummy. Just let me hit the wall, And eventually they're like, yeah, okay, cool. And so I just like run through the studio, turn it the last minute, and eat it and land, and react on the floor like getting back up, and then
Awesome.
they call cut and they're like, oh my god, are you okay? And it's like, yeah, it's fine, it's all good. Like, it's a ball guy, so
Yeah. That's awesome. So tell me about the kind of the physicality that comes with a job like this, with work you do.
It's physical, and even when you're not doing the stunty impact side of it, just contorting your body in such a way to physically be this character, you have to then maintain that over the whole day, which can get quite taxing, because lowering your head like that, you're doing that, which is fine. But then the moment you've got to do that for 4 hours,
right,
it starts to strain the neck a little bit, and the veins are popping and everything gets very, very tense, and but it's what works. Generally with mocap we'll do long takes, not stupidly long, but long enough that it's just like, okay, do it, good, do it again, good, do it again, okay, we'll cut there, just so the file size doesn't get too big. And with Beastman, I think as well at the time I've been replaying all the Resident Evil games. Yes. So when he dives and he's actually diving a bit like the Lickers in Resident Evil 2.
Yep.
And when he's fighting, he's actually fighting a bit like the Hunters from Resident Evil 1.
That's awesome. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's little things like that, as I said, like at the start, like whatever I'm doing on that day, or have been doing, because I've been replaying all of those at the time, ends up finding its way in, because you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that'll work, and it's it's a blast. I mean, it takes it out of you, and there are certain days, doing mocap where it can really take it out of you. This wasn't a Beastman day. This was another project day. But there was one day which I think was the hardest physical day of not just doing mocap, but doing anything, like I've ever done. And I'm a guy, who chucks himself around for a living, did professional wrestling, used to play rugby, and it was a day where we were just doing non-stop headshots. Like, it was like we were a crowd being gunned down, and
Wow.
it was literally just sprint, hold up, hit the floor,
Yeah.
get up, do it again for 8 hours, and like the day finished, and I turned to my mate, this guy Tom, who works on his really, really talented mocap performer, Tom Lee, really, really good. He's just done some work on the new Bond game, and so I turned around to him, I was like, I think I have a concussion, and he's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, and I drove home, and then I messaged him, I was like, yeah, I definitely had a concussion,
Oh
no. but it's all good. Like, we know how to look after ourselves, and and there's the tendency, especially when you're a performer, just to say yes. Can you do this? Yes, of course I can. Of course I can. Yeah, I'm fine. And especially when you work in stunts as well. Everything I said is this. But that was a day that taught me to be like, no, it's okay to let your foot off the gas a little bit sometimes, and to say, I need to take the foot off the gas. Like, no one's going to judge you for that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think that's one thing that I want to kind of highlight. When general audiences, people like me, go to see these movies, or play the video games, all this media that we enjoy, I really want to give people like you, the respect and the congratulations you deserve for that kind of hard work that goes into it. I mean, you're like you said, you took a concussion, to do something, like that's not something that's just small and inconsequential. Like, there's so much work that goes into stuff like this, and I hope you I hope you get the respect that is deserved.
Thank you. I mean, my thing is that I just want people to understand mocap, because something like, you say mocap to some people, and people just think, oh, Andy Serkis. It's just something that they get the celeb mocap actors to do. It's just like, that's the only way it exists. It's that, like, either you have Josh Brolin doing mocap for Thanos, or you have Mark Ruffalo doing mocap for Hulk. That's all that exists. A lot of time, there's other performers who go in and do the really physical stuff. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. And sometimes it's like, it can be a battle sometimes to get credited. I think that the last time I saw, like, sometimes you get a dedicated mocap section, but it's way down in the credits. Not saying it should be up, but it's it's down there. And even in IMDb, it's difficult to get credited for mocap stuff. And when you do, it's right at the bottom of the page in additional crew or special thanks, and that so it's sort of like, the people who are in the know what you did, but most people have no idea. So my goal is I just want to get eyes on not just me, but the entire industry of mocap performance, because there's quite a few of us, and we work pretty consistently.
Yeah. And it's hard work. It's not just, it's hard, it's taxing, it's physical, it's a lot that goes into it. So I mean, that's my biggest takeaway. Like, thank you for agreeing to do an interview with me,
Well, of course.
so that I can,
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Going back to Resident Evil. I love Resident Evil. One of my all-time favorite game series.
Pure poison. He was the virus.
I played the first. The first Resident Evil game I played was Resident Evil 2. That was kind of my entry, and it was way back on the PlayStation 1. I was in college at the time, 1998. instantly fell in love with it. Now I have every game, all the old PlayStation games, all the remasters, all the re-releases, all the modern remakes. I love everything about it. And I was so tickled. There's a one of the promo videos that's kind of floating around out there for Masters of the Universe
Hmm.
is somebody asked the He-Man actor Nicholas Galitzine what role he would like to play someday, and
I
he
saw this.
says, "Yeah,
Leon,
Leon Kennedy."
Leon
You know,
Kennedy.
my absolute, my absolute favorite Resident Evil character, Leon Kennedy. So hopefully, there's a day that comes soon where you get to work with Nick on a Resident Evil project, and he
Oh,
gets to be Leon, and you get to be a Licker.
I
That would
would,
be fantastic.
I would eat that. That would be so good. That would be
Yeah.
amazing. It's funny, speaking about Resident Evil, I'm mates with the MOCAP stunt team that did 9. It's a really talented, like probably one of the best in the industry stunt coordinators for MOCAP, Nathaniel Martin and his team, and they're one of the few they get a lot of props, which is great, you know. And I'm playing this game and I'm just messaging my mates, going, "Oh, I just killed you! That's so cool!"
I spent a lot of time with Resident Evil 9. I got the platinum trophy for it. Fantastic game. So
Oh, it's great.
pass the message along from me that they did wonderful.
Yeah, I will definitely.
So, well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm just so excited for everybody to see this movie. I'm excited to see renewed interest in this world, in this universe that you know, I grew up on this stuff. Like this is my absolute favorite, you know. Um, I'm just so happy, and I'm so thrilled, and I'm almost starstruck to get to talk to people, you know, like you who
Oh, bless you,
have
mate.
worked on something like this. So yeah,
Oh, mate.
thanks for bringing my childhood to life.
Oh, bless you,
I,
mate. That's really like too kind, and it's just it's very heartwarming for me to hear something like that, because you know it's as a fan myself, you know, it's like of, you know, like Master of the Universe isn't my top fandom, but you know, like Star Wars, you know, Zelda,
Love
Star
Zelda too.
Fox, Star
Man,
Fox.
I think we're gonna be good friends. You just keep name dropping all my favorite things.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny when Mario 2 sort of trailer started coming out, and someone was like, "I think that's Fox McCloud." I was like, "Oh, that's definitely Fox McCloud. I can't
Yeah,
believe he's
yeah,
Mario." You know, and
exactly.
so I mean, yeah, it's I might not have that for Masters, but I understand it. You know.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, well, I think that's kind of all the questions that I have for you today. I think you answered everything for me fantastically.
Cool,
Is
brother.
there anything else that you would like to add before we kind of close things out?
No, man, just hope everyone enjoys the movie. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, go see the movie, everybody. Like it's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's what's cool about it is that like this is a movie that I really do believe is going to appeal to a lot of people, and not just fans of this franchise. Like this movie
Mm.
is something special, and I
Mm.
think it appeals to such a broad audience of people who enjoy good stories, good characters. Um, like this is just a fun fantasy adventure. It's colorful. It's full of hope. It's family friendly. Like kids are gonna love this stuff, and I'm just so happy to be able to be like, yeah, this is my thing. Like, go see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh man, definitely.
um, so yeah. Well, again, you know, thank you for the work you do. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it.
Of
Um,
course, man.
for I don't know how open you are to this, but if you would like to, how can people find you like on social media and stuff like that?
Instagram is the main thing that I use, and that's just at James T Unsworth on Instagram. And yeah, that's just what I use professionally. And if people want to, you know, drop me a line, say hello, you know, I'm not a monster. I'm very happy to talk about anything, really.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, very cool. Uh, is there anything that you can tell us about what is next for you? I know you probably can't spoil too many things.
There's a certain film coming out in a few months that is also has my fingerprints on it
Cool.
in a really cool way. But yeah, can't mention that. Um, and then there's a actually I can probably talk about this one. There's a computer game adaptation that I've been working on for the past few years. It's an indie game called Fury, Furi, and we just had the premiere the other night, and that's going to be dropped pretty soon, I think. And
Okay.
yeah, it's that's a cool one. I play two characters in that,
Cool.
like live action, because it was one of them's masked and then one of them is just my face, and that's very action fighty. Um,
Cool.
so that's a lot of fun. That's pretty cool.
Awesome. I will look it up. That sounds great.
Nice.
All right. Well, thank you to everybody who tuned in to watch this. Please go out and support this movie. It uh, releases this week on Friday, June 5th. So hop on your Battle Cat, climb in your Wind Raider, get to the theater, go get a ticket. This movie's awesome, and support people like James who have added to the production of this movie. So until next time, again, I'm Colt, the Dad at Arms. I've been speaking with James Unsworth, and we'll catch you next time. Good journey.